you are attending the Welcome to Making the Most of Open Days and Choosing the Right Higher Education course at our session that is run by HEP and HEPC. So HEP is the Higher Education Progression Partnership, and we are a jointly funded programme with the University of Sheffield and Sheffield Hallam. So we collaborate and work out in schools to provide that impartial advice and guidance. And I'm Kelly Self, and I'm the project coordinator for HEP. And then we've got HEPC, which is our UniConnect programme that is funded by the Office for Students. And we work very collaboratively together to work with South Yorkshire colleges and target schools. So we're trying to make that informed and inspired choices about their students' futures. So my colleague, who will introduce herself in a minute as we go through, is on this call as well. And then we have got our parent and care ambassador with us today, who's going to do a bit of information about her feelings towards open days and choosing the right higher education course before we hit those Q&A session. So as I say, today is all about open days. It's about finding out what they are and how you go about them, looking at that checklist for open days, and then obviously speaking to Laura with regards to that parent and carer perspective. And then we'll look at choosing that right higher education course before we go on to the Q&A session, where please, if you've got any questions, please put them into the chat. As you go along, you can put them in there and we'll try and answer them at the end of the session. So I will hand you over to my colleague Katie, who will take you through this part of the presentation. Thanks, Katie.
Hello, thanks so much for coming this evening. So I'm Katie and I'm Engagement Manager for HEPC, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about what open days are, a little checklist for you to think about before you attend an open day, and also some top tips on choosing the right higher education course. And we will be sharing these slides, so you don't need to try and write all of this down. So first thing, what are open days? So they are just a really great opportunity to visit the institution, so whatever that might be, the university, the college specialist provider, and get a feel for the campus, see what the institution is like, see what the facilities are like, the accommodation, and also to meet staff and students. And they are held throughout the year. Every university is different, which is handy if you want to see multiple. And they're often held on weekends, and most run from 10 to 4 p.m. You can visit open days at any age. Most students visit institutions in year 12, ready for applying in year 13, but students, prospective students from all ages are welcomed onto campus. They won't be checking IDs or anything if you want to look earlier and get a feel for things. Some universities also offer a virtual option, like a virtual open day. You can visit virtually, and that will be advertised on websites. So it's always worth having a look at that first if there is an institution that your child is interested in. To find out individual institutions, we've got a link here that you'll be able to access when you've got the slides, which lists where all the different open days are. But I mean, we kind of talk a little bit more about this. Checking the institution's websites for all of the most up-to-date information is what we really recommend as well. So the next thing I'll just talk about on the next slide is the open day checklist. So this is just something that you can maybe have in your back pocket for when you go to an open day, to try to get the most out of it, because you can turn up and soak up and go on a tour and soak up the vibes, but there's some specific ideas that you can ask yourself and ask the people there to get more of a detailed idea of the institution. So thinking about the course itself, what the course offers. Different institutions will offer different modules for each course. So studying the same subject at two different institutions can look quite different. So it's important to have a look into that and think about, are the assessment style right for your child as well? What is the campus like? Would you prefer a city or rural university or college? Are there suitable study areas for you? And then if it's, away from home, you want to be living at university, what accommodation is available? Thinking about budget, thinking about travel to and from university. Some people do not want to do that. Some people don't mind at all. And then it's thinking about moving areas in terms of getting a feel for the local area and how expensive that is, and are there good transport links if you do need to travel? And then the last thing is not necessarily applicable to everybody, but it's worth looking into in terms of what support is available just for anybody. But then if you've got a specific need, academic, disability, or if you want to look if there's any opportunities for a bursary or a scholarship, you can find that out on the open day as well. And the next slide, please. So then, as part of open days and thinking about considerations is before the open day, it's thinking about what the student actually wants to study and is that on offer at the institution. So here's some considerations to think about before the open day when it comes to choosing the right course, and also some questions that you could ask subject tutors and staff when you are there. Like, take that opportunity to get the answers straight from the people that will be teaching that course. So it's, does your young person have a career path in mind? And will this subject area support it? Is it a career where they need to be accredited? And will they gain that? So that tends to be with something like any kind of medical field. And is there an area that they already excel in? Something that they've not had the opportunity to study before, especially if you've done something like A-levels. Is there something that could lead to, which isn't necessarily a subject that is offered at school? So doing a bit of investigation around that and thinking about studying full-time, working part-time as well, or wanting to work and study at the same time, and how that fits in with different institutions. And then when you're at the open day, in terms of what you could ask subject tutors and staff, it's thinking about assessment and what you want to do. When I went to university, for example, I was much better at exams than I was at anything else. So I did a dual honours where I could pretty much do all exams and didn't have to do a dissertation, for example, and that was absolutely great for me. But I didn't know about that until I went to an open day and somebody told me about that as an option. So it's thinking about what would be best for your child to thrive. What is the length of study? Is there an interest to study abroad? Is that something that they would want to do? And would the course, so many courses that you wouldn't even think offer that opportunity. So it's good to have a look if an institution does. Again, thinking about what modules will be covered, because doing something like history, for example, there's there's a lot of history, and you'd be able to see if something that your child is particularly interested in, if that's something that's taught at that university. And also thinking about what the week looks like. So lots of courses are really heavy on contact time, so that would be seminars going into university, like actual direct teaching, like a lot of sciences and things like that, whereas a lot of the humanities subjects would be a lot of independent study. What best suits your child and what would they prefer to do, and that's something that they can ask tutors and staff on the day as well. So thank you for listening. Like I said, we're going to be sharing those slides so you can use them. I'm going to pass over to for you to hear about a parent and carer perspective for open days, and pass over to Laura.
Thank you. So a lot of what I'm about to say is mirrored really in what you've already heard. The things that I would say first of all, before anything else, is to just sort of enjoy it. It can feel really, really overwhelming. There is a lot of information to take in if you're visiting multiple sites. There can be a lot to take in, and there are so many things that will differ between each institution. So I would say you do have multiple chances at attending open days. Obviously, there are things to take into account like expense and time and that kind of thing. But if you have an opportunity to even go to a couple of times, if you can really straight away think, right, definitely not this one, but definitely this one, well, not definitely this one, but we prefer these ones, then that is going to help, because it allows you to narrow it down, go to them multiple times, and in doing so, you get an opportunity to visit them at different times of the day, to see them in different times of the year. I think that's a big one as well. But like I say, just get to enjoy it the first time you go, getting a feel for something, because as much as we can look at the course and we can look at the accommodation and we can look at all of these practicalities, which are obviously very, very important, how somebody feels in the environment that they're going to be in for 3 years minimum. You know, some of these courses are 7 years when we look at medical degrees and stuff. So knowing how they feel just being in that space, also walking around the surrounding area and seeing how you feel in that. Because to put it bluntly, when we work on the open days, it is going to be bells and whistles, and it is to show the best side of things, and that's naturally going to happen. But you coming a second time means that you'll get to probably see things in a different light, but also going around and looking at the surrounding area. If you come in Sheffield, for example, I attend, but also work for the University of Sheffield, and we are so integrated, as well as Hallam, into the city itself. It's very easy to just go onto the next road and see what it's like down there, see where the bars are, because as much as we may not like to admit it at this point, our children are going to spend quite a bit of time in there probably. So knowing how easy it is for them to get home, knowing how they feel about being there at different times of the year. There are some cities that seem to feel better, I would say, in summer, but not great necessarily in the darker months. And there are some cities that have enough in terms of facilities, or in terms of transport, even in terms of things like street lighting. I know it can sound a bit crazy, but if you go and it's the evening and you get to see it like that, you'll know whether realistically this campus is well lit. So then you're immediately thinking about safety and those kind of things. So there is a lot to think about when we attend, but the things that really are going to help you sleep at night are knowing that your child is going to be happy, and they're going to be healthy, and they're going to be safe. And I would say that if you can have that head on your shoulders as the parent, all the other things are probably more so what the child's looking at with the course content, and they're excited about the modules and that kind of thing, but they're probably not thinking about health services or what security things are in place, or how realistic is it that they're going to be able to get from their accommodation to their campus if they oversleep, which again will probably happen probably after a night in those pubs that I was talking about. So as a parent, as a carer, we have different considerations, and the open days give you a really, really wonderful opportunity to come in and ask those kind of questions, because you're probably not going to find those questions in a lot of the literature that comes from the university necessarily. Speaking to students that work on the open days is a wonderful opportunity too, because they're very candid and they will not sugarcoat anything, which is exactly what you want. You want the truth. So I would say yes, the main things are to enjoy it, to think about sort of as a parent what things you are going to consider that probably your child isn't. But the final thing I'll say is we have to understand that this is a transition for everybody, and the open days give you an opportunity to ask the questions that are going to help you feel okay, because it can be difficult. It's a massive change. We've had these babies around us for a very long time. It's a beautiful thing that they're doing. They gain amazing skills, they have independence, but when you go to these open days, it's nice to consider yourself too. So if there's any questions, don't feel selfish or like you're trying to dim the light of the experience of the potential student there, because kind of how you're feeling about this whole process matters also.
Thank you, Laura. That's great. And it's really good to get a parent carer's perspective on open days and how, those sort of things that are quite prominent and key for you to think about. So we're going to move on, and then we're going to come back to obviously speaking to Laura with any questions you've got for Laura or me. But to start with, I'm just going to talk about, so as I said, we are a collaborative partnership with Sheffield Hallam University and the University of Sheffield. So I'm just going to talk you through just some of the things that they do and offer for prospective students. So Hallam have a Hallam Progress scheme, and this is an applicant support scheme, and it's not for everybody, but this is just to sort of provide some applicants who might face barriers to going into university, okay? And they offer that advice, some support, whether that's key tasks such as applying. They will help you through that process. They provide that monthly newsletter and that personalised contextual offer. So that's where some students, if they might face barriers to going, they can get offered a position that might be a grade slightly lower than what the actual grade is that people are generally being offered. They have exclusive events that are just for those students, and they also can support that travel cost to come to these open days, which is really important, as we've said, for young people to come and have a look, and for their families to come and have a look. So the students that they support are the ones listed on the side. As I say, there is a QR code. You will get these slides, but these are the students that they will be able to support through this scheme, but you have to apply to it. And that needs to be done through a teacher or professional to fill in that short form. So as I say, it's just mainly all about, so the key things are supporting that travel cost to these uni days, and also interviews that might be as part of the process to coming into Sheffield Hallam. But again, it's more about having that support network, someone to go to, someone to get that key advice from. Then we have our University of Sheffield, and they offer lots of different experience called Access Sheffield, and that's again for students that are looking to start their first year of undergraduate study in some things like science and engineering, so that's their Access Plus. And again, these are for students with that underrepresented group. Again, there's an eligibility criteria, so you can access that through this website. These are sort of the things, very similar, every institution. So what we're trying to say is, although, you know, we're talking about 2 institutions that are here in Sheffield, lots of other institutions will do the same. So it's worth speaking to those institutions to find out what support is available for for a student. So again, it's that travel bursary, it's that dedicated team, and then looking at sort of mentoring as well. So these are sort of things that we just need to be thinking of as you're going through. So there's lots of different financial support as well. So for the Hallam Progress, there is different types of financial support depending on the barrier that those students face. So for here, they've got obviously bursary schemes, they've got schemes for care experienced and estranged students, caring responsibilities, and then lots of other support surrounding it. So what this is just saying is do a bit of research, just really look into those institutions to find out what support is available for your young person, because every institution, it can change from year to year depending on, you know, what's going on within that institution, but it's always worth checking it out and asking, because without asking, you're not going to know. Okay, so these slides will come out to you. The other area is our HEP Hub. This is undergoing some refurb at the minute, but it still has lots of resources to download. There is a parent and carer resource to download, which gives you lots of things to think about and some helpful advice. So please do download that. There are specific resources for disabled students, care experienced students, and young carers as well. But there is, as I said, quite a big booklet for parents and carers that will be really helpful advice to get you through this next stage and support your young person as they're going through. We do offer a parent and carer newsletter that comes out termly, and that comes out prior to these events, but just gives you some blogs of students that are currently going through things or have been through it, so they can give you their perspective. We have parent and care ambassadors that do blogs as well and give their perspective. So they're really useful, just easy, quick information given to help you as you navigate this next stage. So to register for that, you would need to go through this QR code. So please, as you get that, if you are interested in receiving those resources, please click on that link. So while you're thinking of some questions, we will start to look at that chat function. That is the end of our information setting for you. As we say, these are just literally sort of tea time, quick wins to try and give you as much information in sort of half an hour with that Q&A session, so that you can go away and any questions that you have later, we will put on to the end of here is our contact details. So please always just come back to us with any questions that you might have, even if it's not around the universities here in Sheffield. We also connect with other institutions and other partnerships that might be able to help. So please just always ask if you've got any questions. So Emily is now going to raise the poll for the last 2 questions, and then these are just for you to note what we're going to offer next year. So next academic year, we will do similar sessions, these half-an-hour twilight sessions, and these will be the ones that are coming up, just so you've got an understanding. So we look at the specific sessions for disabled students to provide that information. We do student finance. Next year, we will talk about those exams and wellbeing and revision tips, and then clearing, but also finding out what the benefits are to HE. So there's a bank of bite-sized tea time sessions that you are welcome to register to. We will, as I said, there's the newsletter QR code as well, but the polls have just gone into there session now, and if you've lost them, they are in the chat function, so please do provide your poll there. And then we'll go to the chat and see if we've got any questions in there while we are waiting. Doesn't look like any questions. Does anyone have any questions for Laura or us with regards to open days? It's daunting, isn't it? It's always hard, but it's about research. I think most of this is all about just making sure you research to find out what as much as you can. And when you go to these open days, you'll get to see the people that are doing the support. You'll get to see the course leaders. You can get to see the facilities. And it's really useful to be able to see the setting, because it's great looking at it on a website, but it's getting that feel for how it is and how easy it is to get to as well, is a really key one. Can they get home if they need to? Do they want to live as far away from home? Okay, there's a question. Brilliant. Says, is there an access at uni of TripAdvisor where we can see if your uni exactly what student? There is. Now, what I'll do is I will double check what the actual website is, because I'm going to say a word and I don't think it is that, so I don't want to give you the right, but there is something that you can go on to that is really helpful, that gives lots of information. So what I'll do is when I send out these slides, I will put that website link for you. Any other questions? So when you go to open days, I'm sure there is a link on there to your accessibility. So they would be able to support you in the best way they can, obviously depending on where you're going. But yeah, you just need to put your access, and then you would they would support you in terms of how to get around on those open days.
Just to the first question, I feel like what uni? The website.
Yes, that's it.
Is that the one?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, it is.
So it's called just what uni ? And on that gives you a lot of information about universities in general. A lot of it is kind of process information, which is helpful because wherever you go, that process information is going to be very similar. Things like UCAS and that type of thing. But it also has, I'm pretty sure it has like a review section where people have reviewed it. So hopefully that would be quite helpful.
Yeah, I will get the website link and then I can add that to it. Right, so I think it's weird. So mature, it actually classes as over 21 is classed as the mature student, but within institutions, you can be any age. So for instance, I went to uni 3 years ago and started, and I'm a mature student. So it's just you've got to be 18 plus, and there is such a diverse population of students that do attend, but mature is classed as 21 plus in terms of how they see it.
And there's also, just very quickly on that, because I'm a mature student, and obviously, and they're depending on which institution, some of them will require you to do a foundation year, others will be direct access. So if you've already got a degree, or if you have done like something at college as an access, then you'd come in as direct access. But some do offer a particular year, which is if you've got, a child or even yourself that is thinking about going into university, and they are that little bit older and they're a little bit worried about going in and being surrounded by, you know, younger 18, 19-year-olds, which can feel daunting. The foundation years actually put you in the uni system already, so you're already familiar with the campus and everything else for 1 year with other mature students before you go on to be with what I call the children. But and that just helps. It helps with just feeling included and not feeling like an alien. So yeah, I think that's always a helpful thing to consider, because we make an assumption that everybody that's coming into uni is 18 a lot of the time, and we can be parents of, obviously, or carers of children, but people that go in a little bit later. So I think the foundation information is definitely worth knowing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And at Open Days, yeah, you can go to different course areas. So you would see they would have different course leaders on, depending on what campus you're at, and they would tell you where the different courses are. So yes, you can see the areas of the courses. So if you're doing a sports course, you would be able to see that area. If you're doing a law course at a certain institution and things like that. So you would be able to, you would have access on Open Days with course leaders as well. So they would go through the modules and what the actual degree is. Yeah, good question. It depends on the institution and it depends on what's open on that day, as to whether I wouldn't like to say that every institution has cafes open. So I would recommend that it can be easier just to bring your packed lunch so that you know that you've got the it there. But there is obviously, depending on where you are, whichever county that you're in or city you're in, town you're in, there would be places for them to find food. But it's, yeah, it might be easier to bring your own packed lunch. So when you're booking for Open Days, you would set, are you talking about Sheffield particularly? Because obviously, depending on the institution, I wouldn't like to say where you book, but you just book on to certain Open Days and you can come to so for Hallam, for instance, there's 2 different campuses. They would have Open Days for both on the same day. So yeah, so if you're looking at Hallam, the Open Day is at both campuses. Any further questions? As I said, if you've got any questions after this, please do get in touch. There's mine and Katie's email addresses and phone numbers. No question is too small. Please just ask, because if you're worrying about it, it might be something that we can easily answer and put your mind at rest. We're there just to sort of be there to navigate for you, because sometimes institutions are quite hard to navigate in terms of when you want to ask a question, and it might be just as simple for us to be able to find that connection for you. So please do get in touch. Out of interest.
So I would just say on this one about whether parents attend, I work the Open Days at the University of Sheffield on the parent and carer stand. So I would say that I speak to the parents more than I do the students, and I would say literally 5% either come on their own or without a parent and will come with a friend. 95% come with parents. And I think it does go back a little bit to the point I was talking about earlier about, different considerations that parents have. And it just gives an opportunity for parents to come along and make sure those questions are actually being asked, even if, you don't always find the answer at the time. The questions need to be asked. And I would say that, yeah, I can't really remember a time when I was talking to or saw a student actually come in and looking around and not having a parent or carer with them. So yeah, most of the time it's definitely with parents.
Yeah, but as we say, there is the option that they can, that it's majority will come potentially with a parent or carer, but there is obviously the option that they can come with their friend or themselves. And for some things, like as we did with the She Progress, there can be options to support that young person if they are navigating it on their own as an independent learner. Do universities provide a coach from the strange? Obviously, again, it depends on the institution, but I will double check, but I'm 95% sure that obviously Hallam, for instance, they definitely do from one campus to the other. and the train station for obviously the city campus is across the road, so that's really simple. For the University of Sheffield, I'm sure they do, but I will double check and I will put that on the email that goes out. Laura, you might know actually.
Yeah,
the
so what
uni
they
of.
do is they don't, as far as I'm aware, they don't offer a coach or anything, but there is a tram stop built into the station at Sheffield, and then we have a University of Sheffield tram stop as well, and it just goes direct. And what you'll have is down at the train station, you'll have student ambassadors dressed in purple t-shirts with big signs, and they will sort of be able to navigate people to where they need to go to get on that tram. They'll even be on the trams, and then there'll be people at the tram stop the other end. So it's not a coach necessarily, but it is kind of supervised transport.
Yeah, and it depends on the institution. So obviously I would recommend, depending on where you're going, to ask those questions. Brilliant. I think that's the end of the questions. So thank you for joining us this tea time.